Okay, so let's talk about this concept of vital energy, or qi. It's a term you hear thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean when it comes to our health? More importantly, what happens when this fundamental energy gets out of balance? We're going to break it all down and demystify the four big patterns of energy imbalance, how the body's flow can get weak, get blocked, completely collapse, or even start flowing the wrong way. So, before we jump into the problems, let's get on the same page about what qi even is. It's not, a substance you can just find in a lab. Think of it more like the principle of being alive. It's the dynamic tension that holds your body together, the active force that fuels your digestion, the incredible transformation that turns air and food into, well, you. It's even that spark of creativity. Honestly, it's the fundamental difference between something that's alive and something that isn't. All right, let's kick things off with the most basic issue you can have. I want you to picture your body's energy like a big flowing river. The very first problem you might run into is simply the river itself running low. The water level is dropping. This is what we call qi deficiency. When your qi is deficient, everything just slows down. That active force we were just talking about, it starts to fade out. It's almost like your phone hitting 5% battery and switching to low power mode. Your whole system does that to conserve whatever energy it has left. And this creates a kind of inactivity, a stillness that just doesn't feel right, where all that natural life and vibrancy is kind of muted. These symptoms really paint a vivid picture of a system that's just running on fumes. You've got the obvious ones, right? The general weakness, feeling lethargic all the time. But then there are these more subtle clues. A pale face, that's because there isn't enough vibrant energy reaching the surface. A low, soft voice happens when you just don't have the energy to project. Even not wanting to move, it all points to a lack of that animating force. And spontaneous sweating, that's a fascinating one. It can happen because the body is literally too weak to properly control the opening and closing of your pores. It's a complete depletion of your energy reserves. And here's the thing. A general lack of energy hardly ever stays general. It almost always starts to show up in very specific systems. For instance, if the spleen's qi is deficient, your whole digestive fire goes out. You get low appetite, weakness, and that can lead to this whole secondary problem called dampness. Or if it's your lungs' energy that's weak, you're going to see it in your breathing. Things like a nagging, persistent cough or always feeling short of breath. Okay, so if the river of energy isn't running low, what's the next thing that could go wrong? Well, you could have a logjam. This is when there's plenty of energy, plenty of water in the river, but it gets stuck. It can't flow. This blockage is what we call qi stagnation. So what causes this kind of traffic jam in the body? It could be a whole bunch of things. Emotions are a huge one, especially things like frustration or chronic stress. They're classic for messing with the liver's job of keeping everything flowing smoothly. But it can also be your diet, or even external things like pathogenic cold, which can literally cause things to congeal and block up the pathways. Physical trauma can do it too. And sometimes it's just an organ not doing its job, like the stomach failing to push food down the way it's supposed to. The absolute key symptom for qi stagnation is the quality of the pain or discomfort. This isn't a sharp, stabbing pain that stays in one spot. Nope. This is more of a distending, achy, full kind of feeling. And the big giveaway, it moves around. It fluctuates. It might be worse when you're stressed and better when you relax. That shifting, changing nature is what tells you it's a flow problem, not a fixed structural issue. And this difference becomes crystal clear when we're talking about lumps you can actually feel. A lump that's caused by stuck qi will feel soft. It's transient. It might literally show up when you're having a bad day and be gone the next morning. Its location can even move around a bit. Now, that is completely different from a mass caused by something more serious like blood stasis. That kind of mass is typically hard, it's fixed in one spot, and it does not go away on its own. This distinction is absolutely vital for diagnosis. And this is so fascinating because it shows that these patterns aren't isolated little boxes. They flow into one another. So you can start with spleen qi deficiency. That's our low power mode from before. Because the digestive system is just too weak to push things along properly, food starts to get backed up. You get a traffic jam. We call this food stagnation. And just like that, a problem of deficiency, of not having enough, has created a problem of excess, the logjam. The root cause was weakness, but the problem you're feeling now is a blockage.
Now, I want you to imagine that weakness, that qi deficiency, getting so bad that the body just can't hold things up where they belong anymore. This really severe progression takes us to our third pattern, qi sinking.
Okay, so this isn't just about being in low power mode anymore. This is a structural failure of energy. One of the main jobs of qi, especially the spleen's qi, is to provide an upward lift, to literally hold your organs in place. When that energy becomes severely, profoundly deficient, it just can't do that job. The upward force fails, the energy collapses, and everything it was supposed to be holding up, well, it starts to sink. The symptoms here are incredibly physical, and they directly mirror this downward collapse. People might complain about a heavy, bearing down feeling deep in their abdomen, or even the terrifying sensation that their organs might literally fall out. And this can show up as actual physical hernias, or the prolapse of organs like the stomach, the uterus, or the bladder. And what's really crucial here is that all of this is happening on top of the general symptoms of qi deficiency we talked about earlier, because that weakness is the root cause of this whole collapse. So how in the world do you fix something like this? You can't just try to lift what's falling. That's like trying to bail out a boat without plugging the hole first. It's pointless. The strategy has to have two steps. Step 1, you have to tonify the root. You must rebuild the body's foundational energy. You have to plug that leak. Then, and only then, once there's actually enough qi in the tank, can you move on to step 2, actively guiding that energy back up where it's supposed to go to correct the sinking. And this is where specific herbs are used like a perfectly coordinated team. You've got a powerhouse builder like Huang Qi. Its main job is step 1. It comes in and rebuilds that foundational qi. Then you bring in the specialists, the guiding herbs, Shengma and Chaihu. These herbs have a naturally strong, upward-moving energy. They grab on to that newly built qi and help pull everything back up into its proper place. Okay, so we've covered weak flow, blocked flow, and falling flow. What's left? What happens when the energy doesn't just get stuck or fall, but it actively starts flowing in the completely wrong direction? This brings us to our last pattern, rebellious qi. This is a really intuitive one. See, every organ system has a natural, preferred direction of flow. Let's take the stomach. Its qi is supposed to go down, to move food through the digestive tract. When it rebels and flows upward instead, you get all those things we know and hate: nausea, acid reflux, hiccups, constant burping. Same idea with the lungs. Their energy should descend. When it rebels and shoots upwards, it manifests as coughing or even asthma. So what can make the flow reverse like this? Well, a few things. Excess heat is a really common one. Heat naturally rises, right? So it can actually pull the qi up along with it. And there's our old friend qi stagnation again. Just think about a clogged drain. If the pipe is totally blocked, the water has no choice but to back up and come out the way it came. The exact same thing can happen with your qi. And similarly, a buildup of things like phlegm or water can create a physical obstruction that forces the energy to flow backward. So we've walked through these 4 really distinct patterns of imbalance, but the most important takeaway here isn't just to see them as 4 separate problems. The real magic is in seeing how they all connect, how they form one big, dynamic picture of what's going on in the body. This quote really just nails it. A diagnosis like qi stagnation isn't some permanent label that gets stamped on you for life. It's nothing more than a snapshot of a process that's constantly changing. Your health isn't static, and these patterns are just links in an unbroken chain where one state naturally flows into the next. And that means that a really good diagnosis is never just about what's happening this very second. It's looking at a whole continuum. It has to look at the past to figure out the root causes. Was there some long-standing weakness, an emotional trigger? Then it assesses the present symptoms to see what the dominant pattern is right now. And it has to anticipate the future to understand the likely consequences. Today's simple qi deficiency,
if you ignore it, can easily become tomorrow's stagnation, which, if left unchecked, might just lead to rebellious chi down the line. It is all connected.
And that really leaves us with this powerful question to think about. If we accept this idea that our body's energy is like a river, always moving, always in flux, then what does a single diagnosis really mean? Maybe the point isn't to get a fixed label for what's wrong. Maybe the point is to learn how to check in and ask, where is the river today? Is it flowing freely? Is it a little low? And then just gently, skillfully guide that current back towards a state of balance. It completely reframes health, doesn't it? It's not a destination you finally arrive at, it's a continuous, mindful journey.